The transmission arrived at precisely 300 hours Greenwich Mean Time, a moment that would be etched into human history forever. Most civilizations would have panicked. Most would have immediately begun negotiations, or worse, surrendered. Humanity did neither. The quantum communication array in the United Planetary Council's Central Command hummed with an otherworldly energy. Holographic displays flickered to life, casting blue-white light across the faces of Earth's most critical decision-makers. Commander Jessica Martinez stood at the center of the room, her posture relaxed yet electric with potential energy. "Display full spectrum," she commanded. The massive holographic projection expanded, revealing the intricate details of the alien transmission. It wasn't just a message, it was a comprehensive declaration of total war, complete with statistical projections of human extinction. The Galactic Confederation had perfected their conquest protocol over millions of years. Their records showed a 99.998% submission rate across thousands of conquered civilizations. To them, humanity was just another statistical probability. Admiral Robert Kimura, the oldest member of the Council, leaned forward, his cybernetic eye, a testament to human adaptation, zoomed in on the minute details of the transmission. Decades of interstellar military experience had taught him that first contact was always more complex than it appeared. "They've made a critical error," Kimura muttered, a smile beginning to form at the corners of his mouth. Jessica raised an eyebrow. "Elaborate." "They'd given us time to prepare." The room fell silent. Most would have missed the implication, but not these people. They were humanity's best and brightest, a carefully selected group that represented the most adaptable species in the known galaxy. Dr. Alexandra Williams, head of Xenotechnology Research, began running preliminary analysis. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces, breaking down the alien transmission with a speed that would have been impossible just a decade earlier. Quantum computing, neural link interfaces, and humanity's unique ability to improvise had transformed their technological capabilities. "The message is fascinating," she announced, her voice cutting through the tension. "It's not just a demand for surrender. It's a complete breakdown of their conquests. They're providing us with a comprehensive history of their galactic domination." Michael Rodriguez, the Council's chief strategist, chuckled. "They're almost proud of their track record." "Precisely," Jessica responded. "And that's going to be their greatest weakness." The transmission continued to play. Alien symbols and mathematical projections danced across the screens. To the Galactic Confederation, this was a formality, a standard procedure they had repeated countless times across millennia. Submit or be destroyed. Simple, efficient, but they didn't understand humanity. In the sublevels of the command center, teams were already in motion. Research divisions were accessing every piece of data, every potential technological adaptation. Manufacturing centers were being reconfigured. Communication networks were being prepared for the most complex defensive strategy in human history. "They expect us to negotiate," Michael said, pulling up comparative data from previous alien encounters. "Every civilization before us has either surrendered immediately or attempted diplomatic resolution." Jessica's smile grew wider. "We're going to do something entirely different." The alien transmission repeated its ultimatum: surrender within 72 hours or face complete annihilation. The message was clinical, precise, backed by millions of years of technological superiority and unbroken conquest. Admiral Kimura leaned back in his chair. "They have no idea what's coming." Dr. Williams finished her initial analysis and looked up. "The mathematical models are fascinating. They've calculated our potential resistance down to 11 decimal places. But mathematics can't account for human creativity." Outside the command center, the first waves of human preparation were already beginning. Research facilities that had been working on theoretical technologies suddenly found themselves with unprecedented funding and support. Manufacturing centers that had been producing consumer goods were rapidly retooling. Every human industry was becoming a potential weapon. The Galactic Confederation believed they were sending a message of inevitable destruction. Humanity was hearing a challenge. "Prepare communication response," Jessica commanded, but not a surrender, not a negotiation. The room held its breath. Prepare something they've never seen before. Deep within the crystalline heart of the Galactic Confederation's Central Intelligence Complex, quantum processors began the meticulous work of analyzing humanity. Trillions of calculations per nanosecond dissected every available piece of information about Earth and its colonies. The result was simultaneously fascinating and deeply troubling. Zixnack, the lead cyanoanalyst, projected holographic representations of human data across multiple dimensional interfaces. Each slice of information seemed to contradict the last. Humans were simultaneously primitive and advanced, chaotic and structured, violent and compassionate. "This makes no sense," Zixnack murmured to their closest assistant, a silicon-based intelligence named Orcs. The human data refused to conform to any known pattern of galactic civilizations. Most species developed along predictable technological trajectories. They would advance incrementally, developing faster than light travel, then communication technologies, then defensive systems. Each advancement would be measured, calculated, mathematically precise. Humans were different. Their technological development was a wild, unpredictable spiral. They would develop advanced quantum computing technologies, then inexplicably use them to create entertainment systems. They would design world-changing medical technologies, then immediately divert resources to creating ridiculous internet memes. The Confederation's historical records showed a consistent pattern of galactic conquest. Each civilization they encountered followed a similar path of development and eventual submission. The mathematical models were always accurate, always. Until now. Dr. Emily Rodriguez's latest research paper on quantum entanglement communication caught Zixnack's attention. The document was simultaneously a serious scientific breakthrough and contained what appeared to be multiple jokes written in technical language. No other species in the known galaxy would dare to inject humor into a serious scientific document. Orcs ran additional analysis. Their technological development is non-linear, the Silicon Intelligence reported. They appear to solve problems through methods that defy conventional logic. A holographic representation of human technological development appeared. Unlike the smooth, predictable curves of other civilizations, the human progress looked like a chaotic explosion. Sudden leaps in technology followed by seemingly random diversions. Innovations in one field would unexpectedly solve problems in completely unrelated areas. The most recent human technologies were particularly perplexing. Biotechnological interfaces that merged organic and synthetic systems, communication networks that could reconfigure themselves instantaneously, adaptive learning systems that seemed to develop consciousness in ways that defied current scientific understanding. They're not just developing technology, Zixnack observed. They're reimagining the fundamental concepts of technological progression. Their research revealed even more disturbing patterns. Human history was a constant narrative of overcoming seemingly impossible challenges. They had survived multiple near-extinction events on their home planet. They had transformed their environment repeatedly. They had developed technologies that compensated for their biological limitations. Most critically, humans appeared to view limitations not as barriers, but as challenges to be overcome. The Confederation's previous conquest strategies relied on a simple principle: identify a civilization's primary weaknesses and exploit them systematically. Technological superiority, combined with psychological warfare, had ensured submission every single time. But the human psychological profile was completely unpredictable. Where other species would surrender when faced with overwhelming technological superiority, humans seemed to become more determined. Their historical records showed multiple instances of smaller, less advanced groups successfully resisting seemingly insurmountable odds. They do not understand the concept of impossible, Orcs noted, running another analysis cycle. Zixnack's conclusion was becoming clear. Humanity was not just another civilization to be conquered. They were an entirely new variable in the galactic equation, a species that could not be predicted, controlled, or easily understood. The final assessment was both a warning and a challenge. Humanity represented a fundamental disruption to everything the Galactic Confederation understood about technological and cultural development. And they were coming. "Prepare full defensive protocols," Zixnak commanded. "But understand this. Nothing in our historical records will prepare us for what is coming." The transformation began almost immediately after the alien transmission. What the Galactic Confederation didn't understand was that humanity had been preparing for first contact long before the official ultimatum arrived. In a converted aerospace facility outside Phoenix, Arizona, Michael Thompson stood before a massive holographic display. His team represented the most diverse group of problem solvers ever assembled. Engineers, artists, musicians, psychologists, and mathematicians worked side by side, their collaboration defying every traditional approach to technological development. "We're not building weapons," Thompson announced to the gathered team. "We're building solutions." The facility hummed with an electric intensity. Manufacturing lines that had previously produced consumer electronics now churned out adaptive technological systems. A textile factory in Mumbai was creating nanotech-infused fabrics that could change properties instantly. A small research center in Johannesburg developed communication systems that could adapt faster than any known tracking technology. Dr. Sarah Williams, a quantum computing expert, was debugging a particularly challenging neural link interface. Her fingers danced across holographic displays, lines of code reshaping themselves in real time. "It's not about having the most advanced technology," she muttered to herself. "It's about having the most adaptable technology." In orbit, modified commercial satellites were being rapidly reconfigured. Communication networks that were once used for entertainment and global positioning were being transformed into a distributed defense system. Each satellite became a potential sensor, communication node, and defensive platform. Agricultural research centers became unexpected hotbeds of technological innovation. A team in Brazil developed biological computing systems using genetically modified plant neural networks. Their breakthrough allowed for computing systems that could heal themselves, adapt to damage, and process information in ways traditional silicon-based systems could never achieve. Thompson walked through the facility, observing the controlled chaos. Each team worked on what seemed like completely unrelated projects. To an outside observer, it would look like pure randomness. But there was a method to the madness. "We're not preparing to fight a conventional war," he explained to a group of visiting military strategists. "We're preparing to redefine what war means." In underground facilities across the globe, similar transformations were happening. A server farm in Iceland became a quantum encryption hub. A deep-sea research station in the Pacific began developing adaptive marine technologies that could potentially become mobile defensive platforms. The key was flexibility. Every human industry was being reimagined. Manufacturing plants that once produced consumer goods now created modular technological systems that could be rapidly reconfigured. A car factory in Detroit was producing drone components that could self-modify based on environmental conditions. A textile mill in China developed smart fabrics that could change properties instantly, from lightweight and breathable to virtually impenetrable. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, leading a team of biotechnology researchers, was pushing the boundaries of human-machine integration. "We're not just developing technology," she told her team. "We're creating living systems that can think, adapt, and evolve." Their research blurred the lines between organic and synthetic. Neural interfaces that could link human consciousness with adaptive technological systems. Biological computing systems that could process information faster than any traditional computer. Adaptive medical technologies that could repair human bodies in ways previously thought impossible. In a small research center in New Mexico, a team developed communication systems based on principles of human creativity and psychological adaptation. These weren't just communication networks. They were psychological warfare platforms that could transmit complex emotional and intellectual content faster than any known alien communication system. Thompson gathered his core team for a critical briefing. The holographic display showed potential scenarios of alien invasion, each more complex than the last. "They expect us to fight," he said, pointing to the alien invasion projections. "We're going to do something entirely different." The room fell silent, anticipation building. "We're going to make them question everything they know about conflict." Outside the facility, the first modified satellites began their silent deployment. Across the globe, human industries continued their rapid transformation. What looked like preparation was actually something far more profound, a complete reimagining of technological and strategic potential. The Galactic Confederation thought they were sending an ultimatum. Humanity was preparing to send a message of its own, a message that would change everything. The Proxima Centauri system erupted in a display of chaos that would redefine galactic warfare forever. The Confederation fleet approached with millennia of conquest etched into every calculated movement. Massive warships stretched across the star system, their weapons capable of sterilizing entire planets with a single volley. Quantum targeting systems locked onto human defensive positions. Their strategy was perfection itself, a mathematically precise dance of destruction that had broken the will of thousands of civilizations. They were about to meet humanity. Commander Jessica Martinez watched from the forward observation deck of the human defense platform. Around her, a team of operators worked with an almost supernatural synchronization. Their communication was a blend of verbal commands, neural link interfaces, and intuitive gestures that would have seemed incomprehensible to any other species. "Incoming primary wave," announced Lieutenant David Chen, his fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. "They're following standard conquest protocol." Jessica smiled. "Nothing about this is going to be standard." The first wave of alien ships began their approach. Each vessel was a marvel of technological engineering, sleek, precise, capable of obliterating entire planetary populations in seconds. Their weapons systems represented the pinnacle of millions of years of technological development. What emerged to meet them was anything but precise. Thousands of drones launched from hidden platforms. But these weren't traditional military drones. They were a chaotic swarm of modified technologies, repurposed communication satellites, industrial manufacturing robots, even modified agricultural drones. Each device had been transformed into a potential weapon, each with its own adaptive intelligence. The alien tactical systems couldn't comprehend what they were seeing. Some drones were large, some microscopic, some moved in predictable patterns. Others seemed to dance with a nearly organic randomness. They weren't just machines. They were a living, breathing technological ecosystem that could think, adapt, and respond faster than any traditional weapon system. "Adaptive response protocol," Jessica commanded. The drones began to change. Those hit by initial alien weapons would fragment, redistribute their intelligence, and return in completely unexpected configurations. A drone destroyed would become multiple smaller drones. Those smaller drones would then recombine into entirely new forms. Dr. Emily Rodriguez managed the drone swarm from a secondary command center. Her interface was a complex neural link that allowed her to communicate with thousands of devices simultaneously. To an outside observer, it would look like she was conducting an impossible orchestra. "They're trying to apply standard defensive calculations," Rodriguez reported. "But our systems don't follow any standard calculation." The alien fleet's first volley should have obliterated the human defensive position. Mathematical projections showed a 99.9% chance of total destruction. Their weapons could slice through planetary shields like they were tissue paper. But mathematics doesn't account for human creativity. The drone swarm began to do something unprecedented. They weren't just defending. They were learning. Each interaction with alien weapons became data. Each destroyed drone contributed to the collective intelligence of the swarm. Alien communication channels began to fill with confusion. Their tactical systems were designed to predict and counter, but the human response was pure, beautiful chaos. Some drones would suddenly redirect communication signals, temporarily blinding alien sensors. Others would use gravitational manipulation technologies to create micro-warp fields that disrupted targeting systems. A few would even transmit complex psychological warfare signals, bursts of human music, philosophical debates, and seemingly nonsensical information that would cause momentary processing disruptions in alien systems. "They're trying to understand our pattern," Lieutenant Chen observed. "But we don't have a pattern." Jessica watched as the first wave of alien ships began to show signs of systematic breakdown. Their perfect formations started to crack. Precision gave way to confusion. For the first time in millions of years, the Galactic Confederation was facing an enemy that didn't just resist. They transformed the very concept of resistance. The battle wasn't just about destroying ships. It was about challenging every fundamental principle of warfare the aliens understood. "Send the secondary wave," Jessica commanded. The drone swarm shifted, multiplied, transformed. The universe watched as humanity redefined the meaning of conflict. The transmission began innocently enough. Across every frequency the Galactic Confederation monitored, human communication started to bleed through. It wasn't a traditional war broadcast. It wasn't a diplomatic message. It was something far more complex and infinitely more dangerous. Dr. Alexandra Williams carefully curated the first wave of transmissions from the Psychological Warfare Division. Her team represented the most diverse group of human communicators ever assembled. Linguists, musicians, philosophers, comedians, artists, and mathematicians worked in perfect synchronization. "We're not just sending a message," she explained to her team. "We're creating a cognitive ecosystem." The first transmission combined quantum-encrypted data packets with seemingly random cultural artifacts. A complex mathematical theorem would be embedded within a jazz improvisation. A strategic military analysis would be hidden inside a stand-up comedy routine. Philosophical debates would be encrypted within children's nursery rhymes. Alien communication analysts began to break down mentally. Their systems were designed to process information with perfect, clinical precision. They expected clear, linear communication. Humanity delivered something that defied every known principle of interstellar communication. In the Confederation's central communication hub, lead analyst Krynak felt the first tendrils of something unprecedented: confusion. The human transmissions didn't just contain information. They contained emotion, complexity, layers of meaning that shifted and changed with each analysis. A single transmission could be interpreted 1,000 different ways, each interpretation equally valid and equally incomprehensible. Musical compositions contained hidden mathematical algorithms. Comedy routines embedded complex diplomatic negotiations. A children's story about a lost puppy somehow contained a complete breakdown of the Confederation's military strategy. They're weaponizing communication itself, Krynak reported to higher command, their translation algorithms struggling to process the incoming data. The psychological warfare team worked from a converted research facility in the New Mexico desert. Each member brought a unique perspective. Michael Rodriguez, a former stand-up comedian, sat next to Dr. Emily Chen, a quantum physicist. A classical musician worked alongside a game theory expert. Their collaborative approach was itself a weapon. Traditional psychological warfare is about breaking will, Rodriguez explained. We're doing something different. We're expanding consciousness. Transmission after transmission challenged everything the Confederation understood about communication. Some broadcasts would contain multiple languages simultaneously. Others would use communication methods that weren't even considered language. Complex mathematical sequences, musical harmonies, even carefully constructed visual patterns that could be interpreted multiple ways. The alien systems began to experience what could only be described as a cognitive breakdown. Their communication analysis algorithms, which had worked perfectly for millions of years, started to fracture. Each human transmission was a puzzle box that couldn't be solved through traditional means. The more the aliens tried to understand, the more confused they became. Dr. Williams watched the initial reports come in with a mixture of scientific curiosity and barely contained excitement. We're not just fighting, she told her team. We're teaching them an entirely new way of thinking. Some transmissions were pure art, complex musical compositions that contained embedded mathematical theorems, visual art that, when analyzed through specific quantum frequencies, revealed strategic military information, poetry that changed meaning depending on the emotional state of the reader. The Confederation's communication networks began to experience unprecedented system-wide anomalies. Their perfectly calibrated information processing systems started to develop what could only be described as cognitive stress. Military strategists would later call it the most sophisticated psychological warfare campaign in galactic history. But to the human team, it was something more, a celebration of human complexity. We're showing them that communication is more than just information transfer, Rodriguez said during a team briefing. We're showing them that communication is an art form, a mathematical problem, a philosophical debate, and a moment of pure creativity, all at the same time. The alien command structure began to experience something they had never encountered before: doubt. Not just about the war, not just about humanity, but about everything they thought they understood about intelligence, communication, and the fundamental nature of consciousness. Humanity wasn't just fighting a war. They were expanding the universe's understanding of what communication could be. The research station in the outer Kuiper Belt was humanity's most unlikely weapon. Nestled between frozen asteroids and radiation-bathed space dust, the facility looked like nothing more than a scientific outpost. To the Galactic Confederation, it was just another marginal human research center. They couldn't have been more wrong. Dr. Emily Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that was rewriting the fundamental understanding of technological adaptation. Her team represented the cutting edge of human innovation, a group that didn't just push boundaries but obliterated them entirely. We're not developing a weapon, she told her colleagues. We're creating a living system. The breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of disciplines. Quantum physicists worked alongside biological engineers. Artificial intelligence specialists collaborated with ecological researchers. Neural network experts shared insights with musicians and artists. Their current project defied every known principle of technological development. The core of their research was a hybrid system that merged organic and synthetic technologies in ways that should have been impossible. Biological neural networks integrated with quantum computing processors, adaptive systems that could heal, learn, and transform faster than any known technology. A small prototype sat in the center of the research chamber. To an untrained eye, it looked like nothing more than a complex, iridescent structure, but it was alive in a way that challenged every definition of life. Traditional technological systems have a fundamental flaw, Dr. Rodriguez explained to her team. They're designed to solve specific problems. We're designing systems that can redefine the problem itself. A hybrid system could adapt instantaneously. Damage to one part would cause immediate redistribution of functionality. It could learn, heal, and transform faster than any alien scanning technology could track. Each interaction became a learning opportunity, each challenge a chance for complete reinvention. Across human research centers, similar breakthroughs were happening simultaneously. A facility in Brazil developed adaptive marine technologies that could transform entire ecological systems. Researchers in Japan created communication networks that could reconfigure themselves faster than any tracking system could follow. A small laboratory in South Africa developed medical technologies that could restructure human biology in real time. The Galactic Confederation's initial reports completely missed the significance of these developments. Their scanning systems were designed to detect traditional technological progress. Humanity was doing something entirely different. We're not just developing technology, Dr. Rodriguez told a group of visiting military strategists. We're creating living systems that can think, adapt, and evolve faster than any traditional weapon. The hybrid system in the Kuiper Belt Research Station began to demonstrate capabilities that defied conventional understanding. It could process information across multiple dimensions simultaneously. It could communicate through methods that weren't even considered communication by traditional standards. During one critical test, the system encountered a complex problem that would have taken traditional supercomputers months to solve. It found a solution in milliseconds, not by calculating, but by fundamentally reimagining the problem itself. Michael Thompson, overseeing the broader technological development program, watched the reports with a mixture of scientific excitement and strategic insight. Every defeat is a learning opportunity, he explained to his team. Every challenge is a chance to redefine what's possible. The human approach was revolutionary. Where other civilizations saw limitations, humans saw opportunities for transformation. A damaged system wasn't a failure. It was a chance to develop something entirely new. A technological challenge wasn't a problem to be solved. It was an invitation to reimagine the fundamental nature of problem-solving. The Kuiper Belt Research Station was just one example. Similar breakthroughs were happening across human research facilities. Each development was a piece of a larger, more complex puzzle. Humanity wasn't just preparing for war. They were rewriting the fundamental understanding of technological development. We're not fighting to win, Dr. Rodriguez told her team as they prepared for the next phase of testing. We're fighting to expand the universe's understanding of what's possible. The hybrid system pulsed with an energy that was almost alive. The Galactic Confederation had no idea what was coming. The first cracks appeared in the most unexpected place. Deep within the Galactic Confederation's central command, the perfect unity that had sustained their civilization for millions of years began to fracture. Millennia of collaborative conquest suddenly seemed less certain, less absolute. Zixnack, the lead Sinoanalyst who first studied humanity, stood before the High Council. The holographic displays behind them showed multiple tactical failures, each more incomprehensible than the last. Humanity wasn't just resisting. They were fundamentally challenging everything the Confederation understood about conflict, civilization, and intelligence. We are experiencing a systemic failure of our most fundamental strategic protocols, Zixnack reported, their voice devoid of its usual clinical precision. The council chambers fell silent. For the first time in millions of years, doubt permeated the room. Each representative from the 7 core species of the Confederation looked at one another with an emotion they had never experienced before: uncertainty. The human approach defied every known principle of galactic conflict. Traditional conquest strategies relied on mathematical precision, technological superiority, and psychological domination. Humanity turned each of these principles inside out. Communication intercepts revealed something even more disturbing. Human transmissions weren't just communications. They were complex, multilayered experiences that could drive alien analysis systems to complete breakdown. A transmission would begin as a mathematical theorem, transform into a musical composition, then suddenly become a philosophical debate about the nature of consciousness. Their communication was a living, breathing entity that could not be contained, analyzed, or understood through traditional means. Vorex, the silicon-based intelligence that had initially assisted Zixnack in analyzing human data, spoke up. Our fundamental approach to understanding intelligence is fundamentally flawed. The statement was heretical. For millions of years, the Confederation had operated on the premise that intelligence was a measurable, predictable system. Humanity proved that intelligence could be chaotic, adaptive, and fundamentally unpredictable. Military strategists began to experience what could only be described as a collective existential crisis. Battles that should have been mathematical certainties became impossible to predict. Human defensive systems would transform mid-conflict. Their communication networks could reconfigure faster than any tracking system could follow. They are not just fighting. One council member noted, they are constantly reinventing the concept of conflict. The 7 core species that had formed the Confederation began to question their millennia-long alliance. Each species had its own unique technological and cultural approach, but they had always found common ground in their method of galactic expansion. Humanity was destroying that common ground. Reports from multiple star systems told the same story. Human colonies that should have been easily overwhelmed were developing technologies that seemed to emerge from nowhere, A mining settlement would suddenly develop defensive capabilities that could neutralize entire invasion fleets. An agricultural research center would create communication technologies that could disrupt entire alien command structures. We are experiencing a fundamental breakdown of our conquest protocols, Zixnak continued. Humanity does not conform to any known model of civilizational development. The most terrifying aspect was humanity's approach to failure. Where other civilizations would collapse after significant losses, humans would transform those losses into opportunities for innovation. The destroyed research facility would become the genesis of entirely new technological approaches. A defeated military unit would develop strategies that would completely reshape conflict. Diplomatic channels, which had always been a formality of submission, became genuine platforms of communication. Humans didn't just resist. They engaged, challenged, and occasionally made the aliens question everything they thought they understood. The Confederation's communication networks began to experience unprecedented anomalies. Their perfectly calibrated information processing systems started to develop what could only be described as cognitive stress. It was as if humanity was teaching the entire galactic civilization an entirely new way of thinking. We are no longer dealing with a species to be conquered, Zixnak concluded. We are dealing with a fundamental force of universal transformation. The High Council sat in silence. The universe was changing, and humanity was leading that change. The final confrontation was nothing like anyone expected. Captain David Harris stood at the center of the human delegation, facing the assembled representatives of the Galactic Confederation. The massive diplomatic chamber, designed to intimidate and overwhelm, suddenly felt small and insignificant. Zixnak, the lead sino-analyst who had first studied humanity, approached the negotiation platform. The tension was palpable, millions of years of galactic conquest balanced on a knife's edge. We expected to conquer, Zixnak began, their translation systems struggling to capture the complexity of the moment. We did not expect to be transformed. The human delegation was a testament to humanity's fundamental nature. Scientists sat alongside artists. Military strategists shared space with philosophers. Cultural experts stood next to quantum physicists. They weren't just a diplomatic team. They were a living representation of human complexity. Dr. Emily Rodriguez stepped forward. Her presence carried a weight that transcended traditional diplomatic protocols. Conquest is an outdated concept, she said. Collaboration is the future. The Confederation representatives exchanged confused glances. Their entire civilization had been built on the principle of systematic expansion. The idea of collaboration was almost incomprehensible, but humanity had shown them something profound. Throughout the conflict, humans had done something unprecedented. Every technological breakthrough, every defensive strategy, every communication transmission carried an underlying message. There are more possibilities than you can imagine. The diplomatic transmission would later be studied for generations. It wasn't a surrender. It wasn't a victory declaration. It was an invitation. We're not here to replace your civilization, Captain Harris explained. We're here to expand it. Holographic displays began to show the technological and cultural exchanges that had occurred during the conflict. Adaptive technologies developed by human researchers. Communication systems that could bridge seemingly impossible gaps. Medical technologies that could transform biological understanding. The Confederation was experiencing something entirely new, genuine curiosity. Humanity's approach had been revolutionary. Where other civilizations would have sought total victory or complete submission, humans proposed something more complex. They weren't interested in defeating the Confederation. They wanted to understand it, to learn from it, to grow together. Dr. Alexandra Williams presented a series of collaborative research proposals. Each one was a bridge between human and alien understanding. Technologies that could solve problems neither civilization could address alone. Communication systems that could connect species in ways never before imagined. We're not just sharing technology, she explained. We're sharing perspectives. The most remarkable aspect was humanity's complete lack of resentment. Despite facing a civilization that had attempted total conquest, humans approached the negotiation with a sense of genuine excitement. Every challenge was an opportunity. Every conflict was a chance to learn. Zixnak realized something profound. Humanity wasn't a species to be conquered or understood. They were a fundamental force of universal transformation. The negotiation wasn't about winning or losing. It was about expanding the very concept of what civilization could be. Cultural exchanges began immediately. Human musicians performed for alien audiences. Alien philosophers shared complex theoretical frameworks with human researchers. Scientific teams from different species began collaborative projects that would have been unimaginable months earlier. "We're rewriting the rules of galactic interaction," Captain Harris said, a smile playing across his lips. The Confederation's representatives began to understand. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It wasn't their adaptability. It was their ability to see potential where others saw limitation. As the initial diplomatic sessions concluded, something unprecedented happened. The Confederation's most rigid strategic analysts began to laugh. Not a programmed response, but a genuine expression of wonder and appreciation. Humanity had done more than survive an attempted conquest. They had transformed the entire concept of galactic civilization. The universe would never be the same again.